And welcome to the Nilvah Nexus, our Thursday night hangout, study, discussion, chat of everything Torah and anything you want, Judaism and the like. I am James, by the way, the idol smasher at gmail.com, and I'm just getting myself set up here, just getting things together. You want to join in the conversation, please feel free to join the Nilvah Nexus Facebook page, the Nilvah Nexus group here on Google+. Trump goes to Russia. Huh? I haven't seen a guy do that since what, Nixon? What does that say about President Trump? I don't know. But Trump goes to Russia. I thought that was, or goes to China. That's pretty cool. Nice hearing that. What else is going on in the news today? I'll be looking for another job soon. That's about the only thing on my mind anymore. Getting the job and whatnot. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. Ross, Madalena is joining us for the first time. Shalom, shalom. Rosalie and Gav as well. Welcome. Glad to have you guys here.
Shalom.
Shalom to you, James.
Shalom. What's new with all you happy, fine folk over here? How are things treating you? Cool world. Anything
Hello,
new?
Bob.
Welcome. Willkommen. Bienvenue. Hello, Bob.
Hello, hello. Baruch Hashem, things are good here.
Good. I was late getting home because I had to get a few things going here, but I'm going to go ahead and get all of our chumash out. The topic is the world to come, and you know, it's a subject I would almost say with a bit of contention. I'm not sure that anybody would disagree, because there's, you know, one of the things they say about us folk here, us non-Jewish folk, keep the 7 laws, do it for Hashem's sake in the world to come. Yeah, we have a place in the world to come. Religion like I have with Christianity, the first thing that comes into your mind is pearly gates, streets of gold, babies with wings, or infant, chubby Nordic infants playing harps. There's really no world to come in religion where we came from. And I've heard of a few different ideas of the world to come. I think when you look at the popular, when I say popular, I mean like with the most readily accessible notion that comes to people's minds in the Ben Noach world, when you say the world to come, is when everybody gets resurrected at the end of days, and we all get to live in peace and harmony on the earth. And that's a really great thought for me personally. That's a very comforting thing. But then I become a realist. Always attracted me to Judaism, to the Torah, is the fact that the Torah is 100% applicable right here and now. Now is the time for Torah, and now is the time for it's applicable to the living. We hear the living word. When I first got interested, they said Torah is living word. Do you understand this? Oh, sure. Torah is living word, the living God. It applies to the living. We have this notion I think in Judaism, but I mean this is also passed on to the Noahide world too. Excuse me, of the world to come. What I'm curious to ask everybody here is, what is the world to come? What is it to you, us? And is it a distraction if we're always waiting for the world to come? Are we waiting for Moshiach? Doreen Dotan, no longer a member of the group, but he said, you know, this basically means you get to live. You know, this means you live. This means that the world to come means you're not going to be executed. Law, you don't murder, you don't steal, you don't abuse animals. You're a fair and just person. You don't commit adultery, yada, yada, yada. You get to live. You get to see what's coming tomorrow. You get to be part of this world. And yet I cannot think of my son who calls himself a Noahide, who I've taught the laws as best I can for, since he was a kid. When I think of the world to come, I think of the world that he's going to embrace and be a part of that I won't be able to see. So I don't know. I don't exactly know what all of it means, but let me ask everybody out there, Bob, when you hear about the world to come, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And does that stick? And if it doesn't stick, what's the other thing that comes into your mind about what is the world to come? I'm picking on you because you were the last to
You
show
say
up, so I'm gonna...
lollipops. That's the first
Oh,
thing we think of. But then after that, there's a whole teaching about spirituality, and this was in a let me think. We had the Torah or class last Shabbos, and it was in Kaisara, Genesis 24, verse 1. Abraham was old and advanced in years, and there was a whole thing about the advanced in years and what that meant, and went into this whole teaching about spirituality. There's an idea that the one day in this world you can produce more than, I forget exactly how it says. One moment in this world can produce more than a whole bunch of time in the world to come. It's more, we're more productive in this world. And the teaching of advance in years is that he was able to do all the things that he could do in this world, being advanced in worlds. And we can accomplish so much. And then it went into this whole mimer, which I really didn't understand that much about the world, the higher spiritual worlds does not have the differentiation that we have in this world. It doesn't have the ability to do things that we have in this world. And therefore, we're able to produce things in this world that we cannot produce in the higher spiritual realm. And that the world to come will be a time when we will reap the benefits of what we have done in this world, because we're refining all of the stuff that we couldn't refine if we were just in the spiritual world. So as far as I've been able to determine, it's all one reality. It's not as if, we have today and then we got a different world in the future. It's all part of one reality. But right now we're in a position we're able to do things, and then we'll come out from this and we'll see what we produce, and that's what's referred to as the world to come. But it's actually something we're doing. We're functioning within it right now anyway. We're just functioning in a very diminished, a spiritually diminished fashion, but a much more productive fashion because we're physical. But we're actually all part of the same reality. That's the way I understand it.
Turn the mute button off. That makes a lot of sense. I might even have to say that I would have to agree with that. It's kind of how I see it as well. Madalena, since you're the new one here, I want to pick on you next. When you hear to come, as it's spoken of, I wanted to read of Gav's here. He says the written Torah and the Tanakh make scant references to the afterlife. Here, that it exists, but it isn't described. He also says if you want more detail, you have to consult rabbinic texts. We could do the rabbinic text. We could go in there as well. we do. But Madalena, again, shalom. Since you're the noob here, I want to pick on you next. When you hear of the world to come, what comes to your mind? What is it that and then
Shalom, can you all hear me?
yes, ma'am. Can you hear me? Yeah, we hear you just fine, Madalena. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk. You might want to hit your mute button. You get your mute button on. We could hear you. Lovely voice. We'd love for you to come back and talk. Shalom Yochanan. Welcome to the group, John. Go ahead, Madalena.
Yes, can you hear me?
Sound great. Go ahead.
We got a new person?
We can hear you perfectly. Yes, sir, we do. It's Madalena. It's her first time.
Oh, nice.
And we're trying to get her to talk. She might be a bit shy.
You know what?
Let
me tell you something, James. I've been so bored out of my mind that I actually went into one of these atheist rooms. I've been just getting shit on for the whole evening. So things that I never even heard before, I've heard. So
that board.
Oh, do tell.
That board.
Highlights, come on.
No,
I've been there.
Disgusting people. But anyway, I like to see new faces, so it's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Hey, and we got Bob is around too. Bob is around, and
yeah, baby. Oh, heck yeah.
Ross is here. Well, we usually have Ross. So.
Yeah, and Bob. Gav and the lovely Rosalie and yourself. You know, the topic is the world to come. You know, my big thing is how do we approach this? What is the world to come? I've heard some contention because of the fact that you know, it's a too much into the afterlife, as Gab was stating, that, you know, it goes, you know, we know it's there. We know there's an afterlife. It's not really described much. You know, one of the things I was saying earlier that also attracted me to Judaism was the fact that it was applicable to the here and now. In Torah, every law, 100% applicable. So I'm passing around, you know, I'm picking on everybody. About HaOlam, is it HaOlam HaBa, I believe is how we pronounce it in Hebrew, the world to come. Trying to get Madalena here on the mic. Madalena, whenever you want to chime in, this is a low-key, very informal, serious, but informal Torah discussion. So anytime you want to join in, I want to move down the line here to Ross. He's next in line on my screen here. Ross, when you hear of the world to come, what comes to mind initially, and then after some thought or processing, what might come after that?
Okay. I don't really spend a lot of time dwelling on the world to come. My thought process is, this is fairly recent, still working it out, but my situation has become, considerations are this. This is the world that we need to fix, rectify, bring up, elevate. Part of the that I worked on was that the scripture mentions in the place where I will place my name. If we accept that that is Jerusalem, and that is where he has placed his name, then we look forward to the day when he and his name are one. That either means he withdraws his name to himself, or his presence comes and with the name. And of late, past several years, felt like that our job should be to try and work, elevate, change, alter this world so that it is a habitable place where he can come and unite with his name. Again, I mean, there's no Superman costume, no Iron Man. Can't fly around the world beating up all the bad guys, but I can change me. And that's what I try to do.
Very wise. Gav, you're next on my list. I know you posted something here on the side chat, but is there anything you'd like to add when it comes to the world to come and how it relates to us non-Jewish folk? To be specific, you know. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you state the question one more time? I'm kind of loopy. I've
Sure.
taken quite a few pills.
Yeah. Here's to good sleep.
Which I have prescriptions for all of them, so don't judge.
Welcome, Hadassah. Glad to have you here. Shalom. The question is basically, you being Jewish and being a rabbi, that might you might be able to give a different light, of course. The world to come to you when you hear it, and do you have any suggestions on how us non-Jewish folk, when we embrace the Torah and we come across this notion, this thing, how do we embrace the world to come? What would be a smart way, in your opinion? We'll start with that.
How do non-Jews embrace the world to come?
I don't want, go ahead. Yeah.
It's part of your reality, just like it's part of our reality, just maybe on like a slightly less detailed level. The world that people so it's basically two different concepts that constantly get conflated. There's a concept of an afterlife, and there's a concept of a world to come. This world to come is not some ethereal, otherworldly place. It's after the end of days, the world that we live in will be perfected. We'll have this king. There will be no more death. Things like that. So it's not necessarily an afterlife. There's a concept of an afterlife. Don't get me wrong. Before this time period and even after it, but HaOlam HaBa is a very physical, real place here on Earth. It's not some place that it's up in a cloud and there's some little Cupid creature feeding you grapes or whatever, but or what it is you said earlier, something like that. So HaOlam HaBa is the world. So what we're living in right now is Olam Hazeh, the world that is. HaOlam HaBa is the world to come, the world that someday will be in physical existence.
So it would not be inaccurate to say this would be post-messianic generation.
Post-concurrent. Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, there will be a messianic dynasty that rules for 1,000 years, roughly.
And we even overcome death. If that's not something to look forward to, y'all.
No death, no sickness, no war, not even competition.
Sounds like communism to me. I'm kidding. No competition. That sounds un-American. I'm not kidding. Yes, I am. Kind of, sort of. Rosalie, you're next on the list here on the line of people that show up on my screen. So you are next, my lady. What is it about the world that strikes you?
The world to come. Wow. Well, Gav kind of took what I had to say and blew it out of the water. So, because the world to come, everybody looks at it like the afterlife. Oh, if you just said they're two different things, well, okay, that just shoots me down. So the only thing that I could go for, that if we're still here and it's still within our time as we know it, first thought was, well, we're going to go from a 3D world to a 4D world. And I can't hear you. You're just smiling.
You've been listening to Uncle Mike, haven't you?
No, not necessarily. It was something, well, up today, but get that from him. I've thought about this before in other places that I have heard this said. So that very well could be. Go ahead.
I like the way he puts that, 3D to a 4D, and 4D is a time when you can step out of time and see the universe for what it is. If you're not familiar with the 4 dimensions and how the temporal dimension, the time dimension, whether the 4th dimension, 5th being relative, yada, 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 but in 4D, it's an elevation out of the temporal, which gives you the perspective of seeing all time as one, from beginning to end. We have that facility within us. It takes training to clearly see what is in our brains. John's laughing, or Bob's laughing. I'm going to move to John. John, up next. So I'm picking on you. When you hear, you're converting, you're embracing the community's embracing you, and you've been deeper than a lot of us into this. But when you hear the world to come, how does it strike you, and how is it useful to us here in the modern world?
To be honest with you, I can't really answer the question. I don't really have an opinion on it, because I was never one to really, how do I put this? I was never curious about the world to come. I've never been fascinated with that concept, it just, that sort of side of religion of, same thing with the Messiah, the same thing with reincarnation and all that sort of thing. Not something I ever really particularly, I don't know how to say it. It never really was an itch to scratch. Is that a way to put it? I never really, to be honest with you, I can't give an answer. I don't know. Honestly. I apologize for not being part of the group tonight.
That's perfect.
Because, like, for me, I'm more of a practical guy, James. You know me. I'm a hands-on, practical type of guy. Having my head in the clouds is nice, sure. But even then, I don't even think about it. Like, what's the world going to be like? What's heaven like? That's something I think about.
Probably smart. I would think it's smart, because you don't want to. I don't like the idea of distracting. I never liked that about religion. Is there was always, it made the world we live in secondary or tertiary, even, because there was something better around the corner. And in Judaism, I always learned that we build that better world. That's the point. That's why we're here. What's up? I'm picking on you next. You're next to show up. When you hear the phrase HaOlam HaBa, the world to come, and when you are as well in the process of conversion, and you're with the nation, what have you learned? How does it strike you, and then how do you apply it to your life, and how would you suggest it's applied in maybe non-Jewish Torah study for the rest of us?
So I'm a little bit with John on this one. It's not something I'm super focused on. But for me, when I hear it, I think, wow, we've got a lot of work to do. I mean, really, it's going to be us that brings in the Messianic age. And so where do we start with all this? You have this big picture of things you can work towards, but really it comes down to being so simple as doing mitzvot and bettering ourselves and focusing on what we can do here and now in hopes that we might one day live to see the world to come.
I'll just keep yapping at myself here at the muted camera. Exactly. When I think of the world to come, I honestly think of my son. That's the first thing that comes to my ear. Is the world that he will embrace, the world that he will live in. What world am I making for him? I mean, God willing, yes, we want Mashiach to come yesterday. That would be nice if he was to come yesterday. We want this, but at the same time, we have to be practical about it. And I think, and with my son especially, that's what I'm thinking of. When I think of the world to come, is what world are we making for him, his generation? When he gets my age, what is he going to be thinking? What kind of world is he going to be living in? So you have a much more practical sense as well. Madalena, you want to try one more time? Your thoughts on the notion, or if like John and Hadassah, if there are none.
Hello,
go ahead.
yes. Do I get a second chance for this?
Hey, you get third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances. We will give you as many chances here.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Well, for me, it's not. I honestly didn't think very much about this concept of the world to come as well. But for me, it's like a destination we have to reach at the end. I mean, it's like the perfect world that all of us can do if we try hard enough. It's a work to do, in my opinion. I'm not sure how to express it very, very well, but since the beginning of us humans, we try to make this world a better place for all of us. And the world to come is, I don't know, the final destination for this. It's that point in which we finally don't have to fear about war, about hate, and about poverty. And finally, we can live freely, and we can reach our full potential in this world. That's how I imagine it would be, but I don't think it's very good to have an image of it, because we don't really know how it will be. It's pretty vague concept in my mind.
You're on mute, Jen.
It's almost too big of a concept, isn't it? It's to embrace, to really digest. When Gav says things like, okay, so Gav, when you say things like no death and the sickness, which I've always envisioned it to be long down the road, along with this would be an effect that we would see in nature as well. Isaiah talks of the wolf lying with the lamb, the lion eating grass.
Yes, precisely.
What's y'all's opinion? I've always had the idea, and I might be bringing this over from my Eastern studies when I spent time, in Eastern studies. But what do you guys say about the human species? Morality of the human species directly affects the physical world. And it is the change in the morality of man that brings elevation to the world, where predator and prey are no longer in existence. that the human species has a direct physical influence on reality, morality. Am I off the handle? Go ahead.
A direct one? No, I don't. I think indirectly we have an effect on the world, right? But not. What we're talking about, this whole concept of perfecting the world, requires a little bit of supernatural intervention as well. There's nothing human beings can do right now to affect such a reality in which death would cease to exist. That's obviously a God thing.
Okay, so when
I think I want to say though. Oh, go ahead, James.
please.
I was gonna say it's something that we should expand upon and actually look into, because I mean it is one of the principles, pillars of Judaism is a world to come. That's one of the principles of faith. One of the 13 Maimonides principles is the world to come, an absolute belief in the world to come, and the second would be the Messiah. I have faith in the Messiah, coming of the Messiah. Torah is divine. There's one God, monotheism. There's no image, likeness of God, right? So it is part of the fundamental principles of faith, and so I'm more than willing to hear what it's all about. That's all I wanted to say.
I'm often challenged. What's challenging it necessarily doesn't directly go with what we're talking about here tonight, but I thought I might bring it up. I have an internal kind of a struggle, or dance, maybe is what it is. Waiting for Mashiach to come concept. There's a notion I was taught early on. We're not going to predict it. We're not going to anticipate it. We're not going to try to affect it. We're not going to try to force the Mashiach to come. That would be, and I heard it compared to the second temple, how we just kind of rushed to make a temple. It was dedicated to another god. Oh, we got to have a temple anyway. Don't worry about that. We'll build one anyway. And so, part of me is a little nervous about Messianic era. It's such a huge thing, and like you say, it is that both world to come and Mashiach are part of the the Maimonides, the Rambam's 13 principles of faith. But sometimes I feel like that detracts from the present. I know that sounds bad. I'm not saying it does. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to downplay anything here, but conditioning, sometimes I feel like we might not give our all now, because one day Mashiach's going to do it. So how do we, are we wrong in wanting to build a better world? I know repairing the world isn't necessarily a Torah thing. I think that's rabbinic. I can't find anything in Torah that says repairing the world. How can we keep faith? How can we keep faith in Moshiach and the world to come, and it not detract from us now? Anybody have an idea on that one?
So yeah, you observe mitzvahs, and you perfect yourself as if Mashiach is never coming, but at the same time you pray for his coming as if his coming depends on you.
Like for me, James, like personally, like I see sometimes that I see it like, man, I should have been better. Today I had the chance to do something positive, like a great moment, and it just goes right. You know what I mean? It's just right over my head. I sometimes like I had that epiphany. Like doesn't always, it doesn't always click, but sometimes it does. It's like But I know, you know what? Tomorrow I'll get it right. If that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense to me, man. That's where I'm at. I'll go through life and from stuff that happened 15 years ago, still 20 years ago. I'm pretty hard on myself sometimes, but you know, at least, you know, I'm here, I'm alive. He's not killed me yet. He's not taken me away, so I still have time to make good. That's my thing. Yeah, you know, I've still got time. You know, if I'm not dead, if I'm above ground. Self, like what Gav said here, you perfect yourself as if he's never coming. Or that the list of people in each generation that could possibly be Moshiach is a very short list. True. We all have a bit of messianic potential in this. We're supposed to bring that into the world. No? You wouldn't say that all of us have messianic potential?
Well, I don't have messianic potential, but I have the potential to affect the you know. But I mean, I wouldn't be messianic because I'm not a Jew, and I'm not of the house of David. I'm not of the line of David. But there's plenty of people that are alive today from the line of David, and so that's not really an issue. A lot of it has to do. I would take a very different approach, and I would say that it's entirely up to us, specifically the Jewish people. The Torah was given at Sinai to the Jewish people. The responsibility, the commission, the trying to think of what the term would be, the responsibility was handed over to the Jewish people at Sinai. And so that's how this is all supposed to work. Now, it's going over a long period of time, and the nations are like an auxiliary to the Jewish people. So we're part of it. We have our role also in connection with the Jewish people. But that's how this world, that's the work. And our perfection is not as if whether or not Messiah may or may not come. Our perfection is what's bringing the Messiah. Is, you know, we're doing it. That's our job.
It reminds me of the study we did, I want to say, a couple of months ago, 3 months ago. It's a long time ago. But back end of Numbers, we were doing a study about why there was a delay. And James goes, BRB, right when I'm making a point. It was for him too, right? Anyway, the point I was making was,
I'm away from keyboard. I got to go help the wifey with something. I'm listening though. The speakers are.
You're supposed to put AFK, away from keyboard, not BRB.
Trying to make anyway.
You got to learn you got to learn the whatever. It was supposed to be they left Egypt, Sinai, and then bing bada boom, Israel. Right? They were just supposed to just walk right in, but because of all the doubt, all the mishigash, right? They got caught up in it. It held them back from just right.
The golden calf.
Right. It was like, what wasn't it? Didn't know it was what we learned. It was supposed to be like it was supposed to be less than a week. It was they leave Egypt. It was supposed to get the Sinai happen, right? Boom, Israel. But then it took like 40 years, right? It was supposed to be less than a week, but it ended up 40 years because of all the nonsense, right? It's like what we're talking about, right? Like we're wondering about, I wonder when the world to come is gonna come. I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean? When is it gonna come? It's like, well, why don't it comes now? It's like right now.
What prevented everybody from crossing the Jordan? It was the spies. God said it was good, great land. I mean, God says, like, shoot, milk and honey, you're going to love it.
Right, it was already destined. It was promised. It's a heritage. If I want to say this phone I have, oh, you can't see him on a webcam. James, this phone belongs to you. This says your name on it. And you go, well, who's James? I don't have a. What do you mean? What do you mean? Then obviously you're not going to take the phone. Obviously, you don't think it's yours, right? You got to first realize that it belongs to you, right? It's that you're capable, ready and willing. Hoorah!
But we had to know.
Go ahead.
We had to know for ourselves, didn't we? It just wasn't enough that God said it was a great land and a piece of cake, right? For ourselves, we had to send over our own spies for our own well-being so that we know for a fact that this is actually a good land that our Creator, who just obliterated Egypt and saved us and showed up. How many gods show up? Huh? How many gods show up? One. We had to go send in spies, and we took their word over the Lord's.
Yeah.
It took them 40 more years wandering in the desert or the wilderness.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and read what Gav posted over here in the side chat real quick here. If a king will arise from the house of David who diligently contemplates the Torah and observes its mitzvot as prescribed by the written law and the oral law, ancestor will compel all of Israel to walk in the way of the Torah, breaches in its observance, and fight the wars of God. We may, with assurance, consider him Moshiach. If he succeeds in the above, builds the temple in its place, and gathers the dispersed of Israel, he is definitely Moshiach. The entire world, motivating all the nations to serve God together, as Zephaniah 3:9 states, quote, I will transform the peoples to a pure language that they all will call upon the name of God and serve him, unquote. Here's another one that I never knew was ever contested. All the discoveries us non-Jewish people make, you know, all it's a whole, I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you're watching out there in the world here, universe. Welcome, Jarl. Welcome. It's a whole universe. You just don't learn something and go with it. It's a never-ending. There's always another galaxy to go explore. And Jarl left the group. Okay. One thing I never knew that was contested is the pure language. I will transform the peoples to a pure language, and they all will call upon the name of God and serve him with one purpose. I didn't know that this doesn't necessarily mean my head and what I was always taught for years. I will transform the peoples into a purer language meant that everybody would go back to mother tongue. The tongue of Torah, the language of Adam. I've been told recently that that does not necessarily mean that everybody's going to be speaking Hebrew. Has anybody else heard anything else, or am I way off in thinking that certain part of Zephaniah that says, I will transform the people's language into a pure speech? Okay, Gav says here in the side chat, most commentators would differ. Then what does it mean to have pure speech or a pure tongue? If we're calling on the name of God, we can't do that in another language, can we?
Correct. So what is the name of God?
I know a few. I don't know if I should pronounce them here.
No. Now, I mean, like the euphemisms or the stand-in names. What's the actual name of God? It has 4 letters. You're not
I
really
only know the abbreviation.
right. Right, correct. We don't really know how to pronounce it in our time. So, the entire world coming to a pure language will be able to call on God that way. We'll have revived the knowledge of how this name is supposed to be pronounced. And of course, that would be in Hebrew.
So not necessarily everybody's going to be speaking Hebrew, per se.
That's what most commentators say, that it'll be Hebrew. In fact, I've never actually heard anything else.
Huh. Wow.
Maybe
I would have to dig through. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ross.
Please, go ahead.
Maybe I've got just a slightly unique take on that pure language, but one perspective that I have on it is that the whole world will be full of the knowledge of Hashem. There will be no mention of any other false god, fake gods, or whatever. There will only be Hashem and his Torah. So in that way, your language is purified because there is no mention of any other god.
I know that I've seen other things. I'm not exactly sure where. It'd take me a while to dig through what I have, but the way it was explained to me was that just like there's a phrase that's been misquoted to different people, but it goes United States and England are a peoples divided by a common language, and even if we have a language, it's very difficult to understand what each other's saying. So one way it was explained to me is that this means that people will understand each other. There won't be this ambiguity that people talk to each other, they don't understand each other, but there'll be an understanding of things. The pure language means people will understand it. And where is this again? Is Zechariah or Zebekiah or where?
Zephaniah 3:9.
Isaiah?
Zephaniah.
Oh, Zephaniah. Thank you.
3:9. The immortal great heathen army. Welcome back to the Noahide Nexus. I know there aren't many as names as bombastic as the Idol Smasher. They stick in my head. Thanks for coming in. Glad to have you here. Just
thanks for having me.
I don't know if you're into it or if the topic is the world to come. And in Judaism, it doesn't necessarily mean because we have an afterlife and we have the world to come. And we were kind of differentiating between pearly gates and big chubby babies with harps flying around with wings, and an actual physical reality that is to come in our development here on the earth. Any comments or anything? Are you hanging out? Is anything you want to share? I'm picking on you because you just showed up. So.
I'll listen for now and let you guys talk. Yeah.
Sure. Well, you're welcome to speak up at any time. Madalena is new here, and anytime she wants to speak up, she can speak up as well. And everybody will shut up because I'm the moderator and I can mute everybody. Okay. The two things strike me when I hear this, because I go back to early Genesis when I hear of the world to come. One, just before the flood, in fact, let me see if I can just get the actual passage here in the Chumash. Right before the flood, Genesis 5, I want to say it was Genesis 5. Right at the end of it, Okay, hang on. It might be 4. Okay, it's at the end of 4. Then God's name became profaned by all the people, calling humans and idols by the name of God. Now, that's interesting that we have the Gutnick edition Chumash, which I'm kind of diving into, because that's how it reads. I want to read it one more time, but first, I want to get a stone, which is another fantastic buy. A bargain worth every penny. Actually, any Chumash you get, Chumesh, any Chumash you get is going to be worth every penny. Because this stuff is just too good. Okay, let me get out of the Chumash and go to you how it reads. Then to call in the name of Hashem became profaned. This is really because chapter 5 is pretty much a backstory and a lineage, letting you know of the line of Adam to Noach and then forward. And then I think of course, Babel. I think of Babel. I think of a Babel fish when I hear Ross talking about that. I don't know if there are any Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans. If you are, you'll know what a Babel fish is. You stick in your ear, and you can hear any language. You can hear anybody speak in any language. Anyway, so there's 2 things that appear to be rectified in the world to come. Returning mankind to pure speech, I think would be a rectification of an ancient primordial human problem, profaning God's name, and Babel. We're told to spread out.
Say, James, I think we could safely say, James, you're babbling. Get it? Babbling?
Here, I'll just go ahead.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you exactly got the point. That's when people started babbling. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. That's what it means, pure speech. We're gonna stop doing what they did at the Tower of Babel at that time when they started profaning God's name. We're gonna stop babbling and actually start talking. Understand? You get what I'm saying? We're gonna stop babbling and we're gonna start talking.
Say that's delicious. That's deliciousness. That's a juicy steak right there. I can just taste that. I really can. See, that's the practicality of the Torah I wanted to get to in this topic today. We stop babbling. That the Torah prescribes the offering of a bird for Haftarah. That's part of the process to get rid of your tzaras and be welcomed back into the community. And one particular teacher, I can't call him rabbi because he wasn't Jewish. One particular teacher, I remember hearing talk about this, was that's what birds do. It's just babble. Bird, you're getting rid of your babbling. Is the exact opposite. There's a web of communication, and a broadcast, literally broadcast. When a bird speaks, everybody hears in the neighborhood. Every bird will hear it. Every dog will hear it. It's a broadcast speech network that you hear on your spring morning on the planet Earth, and you've taken something out of that, birded that web of speech. And by offering the bird, you're coming to realize that you have away from that network, that you have removed or even perverted the broadcast, the speech that's already there. And the ability to rectify that. I mean, what does Torah teach us about speech? It brings the universe into existence via speech. He maintains it through speech. So our speech is just as important to come. Man, that's just hit me. That's really good, Gab. You really sent me off on this one. And John, that's a really, we stop babbling. We understand each other because we know what happens in there. We get the changes with nature. We get the changes with human beings, but the notion that everybody can understand everybody and peace worldwide, no more war. That's some powerful stuff, y'all.
I think we pretty much answered the question of tonight's hangout. Let's get on to some Parsha study. That's what I think.
Study?
See? What happens when you quit babbling?
You shut me up, aren't you? I just
1 hour. That's a new record. 1 hour. That's pretty good.
People talked within that first hour. I've had a rough day, and I've been dying to dive into this forever. So I'll shut up. Anytime somebody wants to speak, shut up. I will mute.
I haven't done any sort of Torah study this today, or I haven't. I came in. I came in here to learn.
You're gonna put all the burden on my shoulders. This week, by the way.
You're our Moses. What can I say?
I'm still digging through this stuff, looking for stuff on languages. I tend to stick in one space for a long period of time, and it takes me a long time to move. So I'm sorry. I don't go very fast.
It's all right. It's all right. No
I am finding interesting things. Everything people were saying was coming from somewhere. So that's just pretty cool.
I know it's definitely coming from somewhere. Sometimes it's from someone's tuchus, but it's from somewhere.
Hey, I muted when I farted. Okay. Anyway, the pure language could also be an angelic speech kind of thing, because this one I did get from Uncle Mike. The only ones that have language and man. We're the only ones that do have language.
Now, if you remember, now, though, Rose, if you do remember, the serpent had language. He can stand up straight, moonwalk, and speak.
At one time, but he doesn't anymore.
But what? So the right
Not here
so
on this planet.
I guess I'm playing with you a little bit.
Everything we're doing is everything on this planet concerns us. And if angels come to the planet, that's what would make them.
There was no man could understand animal speech. Animals talk. There is communication. It's pretty much a verifiable fact. Even elephants communicate at subsonic levels.
But what was it? I mean, what is it that it says exactly the reason why he lost his speech? What does it say? Come on. I'm throwing you a 99 mile an hour fastball right down the plate.
It doesn't really say what happened to his speech, other than his speech might induce enmity between
Adam says it's this woman you gave me this woman, she caused me to sin. All right, so God goes to the woman. Why did you sin? Oh, it's the serpent. She told me that he told me it was good. I looked at it. Oh, you did that to the woman? Because you do that, I shall take away your speech. He took away the speech because he wasn't properly using it.
I never thought about him taking Snake's speech away. It wasn't a
serpent, whatever. Serpent.
Wait, you guys don't believe that the serpent was the devil, right?
The serpent was Satan. Yeah.
There are people. There is a midrash that says that the adversary clinged to the back of the serpent and influenced him. But the Chumash clearly states this was a creature of the garden. Therefore, it was created on the sixth day. It was a land animal. It was a creature. We can look at the implications. I never liked I still don't like it. And yes, it's part of Judaism, just as my argument is as well. Oh man, Jews, how to argue? Go to a Jew. Study Judaism. I never liked the idea of Satan as the serpent. I never, ever, ever liked that. I think it, in today's world, with what religion between Islam and Christianity teach about Satan, Satan, Saytin, Satan. You know.
Whatever you do, James, never study the Zohar. It will just, whatever here you have left, it will just be falling out.
Okay, anyway, now that I can finish, in the Garden of Eden, and once Adam fell out of the garden and had to have clothes, aka our skin, to cover our bodies and our soul and our nefesh and our neshama, that's when we lost the ability to talk to the animals, because we could no longer hear them.
Immortal, the Chumash says it was a creature of the garden, which would imply it was a creation on the sixth day. It was a creature. It was an actual physical, upright, walking, talking, intelligent, conniving creature. And it appealed to Adam's mistake, which was teaching Eve that if you even touch the tree, you die. God never says that. She gets a pass on that. We never once hear of Eve's punishment for blasphemy. She said, the Lord said this, and the Lord never said that. Where would she have possibly learned this from? This notion, don't even touch it, from Adam, who was trying to protect her. And not only you don't eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, if you even touch it. So all the serpent would have to do was just bump her up against the tree. And when there's one midrash that says that he did just that. So, if God was wrong, I touched it and I'm not dead. What else is God wrong about? So really, this all comes back to Adam. The whole thing comes back to Adam.
Blaming on the man.
And the fact that, well, he didn't want to take responsibility for his actions. And he wasn't asked about that. God never, I don't know of a midrash, maybe you know of a midrash. I don't know of anything that says that God was angry at Eve for saying don't touch it, or that God was angry at Adam for teaching her not to touch it. He only asks, why did you eat? Why did you actually break that commandment? But yeah, we lost it. I mean, we could call on the name of God, so I wouldn't doubt if there was some communication. Noah instinctively knew to take care of the animals like he did, so I wouldn't doubt if there was some instinctual, intuitive understanding, communication between the animals and man. But we know that after Noah, our gene pool kind of bled out. So we don't have that now. And if I did, my cat's in heat right now, y'all. I am the only male in the house. And the cat knows it. There's not a more creepy feeling. I've never been a psychopath. I've never wanted to pick the cat up and throw it over the house and see if it'll land on its feet until I lived in a house. If I could just communicate to her, if I could just Vulcan mind meld, some of that stuff I learned in Kung Fu. It might help it. I don't know. The one thing that, go ahead. Anybody want to say anything before we move on to the Parsha and the Haftarah? Anybody got anything to say? I know Bob was over there digging up some stuff on languages. Anything strike you? Anything pop up? Bob, on language?
Just that there. I mean, yeah. The whole idea of it being Hebrew, that's, I guess, is based on a commentary on Rashi's commentary, saying that because Rashi says it's Rosh and Krodesh, Lashon HaKodesh that was given at the nation spoke at before the Tower of Babel, and therefore that would have been what it's speaking of in there. But there's other understandings is that it just means that they'll understand it. Or also the idea that Ross was saying about the they won't be speaking about idols. And there was a mention in there about calling on the name Hashem. The Tetragrammatron. So I guess all those different ideas are kind of mentioned in there in different commentaries. The Abarbanel, the Radak, the Rashi, all the different commentaries.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with everyone's gonna stop babbling. That's my answer. Quit the babble.
I think the internet is a neat tool, in how we can say the right words and not convey what we mean. Words, and they'll be completely taken the wrong way by the other guy. That's not a listening communication in this world.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah. You're muted.
One of the things that,
I don't know if I can hear you. I can't hear you.
There we go. Okay, everything's running slow on my end. It takes my mouse a while to catch up. In this week's Parsha, if you're following along at home, if there's anybody out there at home, we're in Genesis 25. The portion, the Parsha of the week, goes through 28, verse 5. Verse 9, 28 through 9. So 25, 19. Rod Reuven over there at Nativ, fantastic place. He was talking about, and it comes off to the reader in the Western world, I think, when it comes to Rebecca Rivka, when it comes to her influencing Jacob to play like his older son to get the blessing from Isaac. It looks like, honestly, I can say in a Western world, this story will come off like a Springer special, a Jerry Springer special. A lot of family drama and that sort of stuff. But then I go back, and I don't know if I've been harsh on Rebecca at this point. It's deceptive, and it sounds like she might be going the wrong way in this. But looking back, when I look at this thing and I look at the Torah as a mapping of human consciousness, and I begin to see the Torah as it is, that it has to include the story, that it had to happen like this for a good reason. But even when I elevate out of that, and I know that other people think this way too, that it looks like family drama and that Rebecca is being very deceitful. This year when I'm reading this, like she knew they were warring within her. She knew there was a battle already going on. Two nations were she already had the prophecy that there would be two nations that battle each other, Edom and Israel. And it's proven, it's here. We know this. But she knew in advance there was a struggle, and that one fought the other to come out first. But I think that Rebecca knew that Jacob was destined, or she knew. Possibly his heart beat a millisecond before his twin. Okay. She knew somehow this was the one who was going to bring peace. So I can't I cannot fault her. I never faulted her before, but I never saw favor in that move until this year. That her actions, she knew something. Women being spiritually more in tune with God than men are, she knew something was going on, and she made sure the covenant was going to be fulfilled. That was fulfilled with Abraham, because it wouldn't have come. Sinai wouldn't have come through Ishmael. It had to come through, or it couldn't come through Esau. It had to come through Jacob. So that's my thing with Torah. With the Parsha this week that I got out of it that stuck out was she probably knew, or she must have known something. What would influence her to God out of this? Of course, too, don't we? When we look at this, we have to cut God out of the whole story to look at it as a drama. Because I think when we read this in the Western world, my Christian, friends out there, she was deceitful, and she deceived. She deceived Isaac. She was playing a trick on him, and she was going to make sure that her favorite son, because that's what she liked. And you put God in the picture, her, and God as in close communion. The whole thing makes perfect sense. It no longer is a drama. It's a rectification of a wrong that was done that started in the womb. There's my gig. What say y'all? Any opinions?
We saw through Esau's crap. The only one who said she probably saw through it, because the only one that Esau would come through and say he was doing this was to Dad, because he knew he was Dad's favorite. So she probably saw through it, and then you don't see that mentioned at all. You don't see that he was trying to deceive her. He's deceiving Dad.
And isn't that interesting that he was blind at this point?
Exactly. So she saw he was being taken advantage of, too.
And of course, firstborn, it has to be firstborn. But I've never heard in anything in Torah, in any oral Torah midrash, of anybody else clinging to the heel of the twin. Primordial infant, I'll be damned. Get back here.
Now, Esau was the first one out, so he says, "Take me with you. I got you. Hey, you know the way out. Don't leave me behind."
I don't know. For some reason, I wish Rabbi was still around. I don't know what happened to him. He's always getting raptured. Right when we need him, he's always disappearing.
I said he was on pain medicine, and he doesn't feel good.
I have I had a question, but
What was your question? Maybe we can.
It's not really a question. More of like I was, when you were saying it that way, James, like the way you were reaching up, holding onto the ankle. It said there's a statement in the Gemara that a non-Jew will hold on to the tzitzits. I just, for some reason, that struck me, like the way you were holding on, you were reaching up and holding on. It was just, for some reason.
So I'm the Ishmaelite.
No, Esau. We're not talking about Ishmael. Esau.
Esau. Ooh. I'm Edom cleaning up. Well.
Yeah, we're a bunch of Edomites in the room. Everyone's an Edomite, yeah.
All the Jews of God.
Yeah.
The Edomite Nexus. That just doesn't ring.
I mean that symbolic statement is all throughout Torah. I mean, Genesis with Noah, with the two brothers walking backwards with the talits to cover the father. It says that the Jephthasites, that's a tongue twister. The descendants of Europeans would cleave to the Shemitic people for Torah. It basically says that they're here with us. They're studying the tents of Shem. You know, it talks, like I said in the Gemara, we will hold on to the non-Jews will hold on to the zitzes. You know, it talks about how, you know, this is symbolic sentiments throughout the Torah. I mean, it makes sense, you know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just looking at it from a weird perspective. I don't know.
No, it makes perfect
You're
sense.
babbling.
Yeah, you're babbling.
I'm babbling again. Yeah, it's true. I gotta stop doing that.
So, Immortal, you've been here for a few minutes. Any questions you got? And you're in like a mind-opening room here. You've been here before, you know, where you ain't no judgments and nothing like that. And if you got anything you want to ask or you want to join in on, you know, please feel free.
It's usually like an echo. It's usually an echo chamber in here, right? We usually just talk to ourselves. There's usually no. Once in a while, we'll get a Christian in or an atheist, but it's very hardly. Does that happen?
I want Hermine to come back.
Yeah, I don't know why she doesn't come around anymore.
I think we get too Jewy.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah, all that babbling.
All the babbling, all the babbling, the Torah babbling.
So just run through. You have the Good Nick edition out there, James. Why don't you just run through?
Yeah.
Because what I like about the Good Nick is that they lined up each Parsha, which each paragraphs have a different topic. So if you just want to highlight this to read the topics to me real quick.
Sure.
Jog my memory of what the Parsha is about.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say that because this is a part of the Torah which I glossed over. I study it and I forget it. I study it and I forget it. 6, 7, 8 years. I study it and I forget it. This year I'm making it a point to pay more attention. Parshas Todos. It begins, these are the descendants of Yitzchak, son of Abraham. We've got where Yaakov, where Jacob buys the birthright of Esau. Yitzchak moves to Gerar because of famine. Where he prospects there, or he prospers, prospects. Avimelech swears an oath to Yitzchak. Yeah, it's like Yitzchak's making good on his dad's, as you know, the wells were covered up. And he goes and he and his boys go back and dig them back up. Avimelech makes a covenant with his father, a covenant of peace. The well of Beersheba, you know, you bring hospitality to the wayfarer, with the orchard and the well. Esau gets married. Yaakov takes the blessing, takes Esau's blessing, which was never meant for him in the first place, was it? No. Another thing I like about this, I brought it up before, I'm going to bring it up real quick here. Esau, or Edom, when we refer to Edom, we refer to the line of Esau. Their weapon is that of the sword. Israel's weapon is that of the word. One day, Israel will overcome Esau. One day, the word will overcome the sword. Esau discovers that his blessing was given away. He plans to kill Yaakov, and Rivka tells him to flee. Isaac instructs Jacob to marry, and Esau marries Ishmael's daughter. Those are the highlights found in the Gutnick edition. Some might call it the Chabad Bible.
To talk about the characteristics of Esav is, I don't think it's, I think it's emphasized that he's not a good dude. I mean, he's a pretty bad kid, but he's a really not a good guy. And one thing I've learned is that the wording is quite interesting when the Torah talks about Esav. It uses the same sort of vernacular when it comes to Cain and Abel, and the verse that atheists love to bring up about Deuteronomy. It says that Cain overtook his brother in the field, right? And it says that Esau was a man who overpowered people of the field. And then it talks about in Deuteronomy, when a man shall overpower a woman in the field, right? It's a connection to these things. So the connection is this, that Esau was basically a mass murdering rapist. I mean, I don't know if there's a nicest way to put it. That was like sort of his shtick, is that he overpowered people in the field. Whatever that means. I mean, we can allude to whatever that means. Cain overpowered his brother in the field. A man shall whatever.
Man who overpowers a woman. Yeah.
But there's also another connection, is that we sort of think that, because I'm a practical person, I'm a hands-on guy. We already established that. But one day, we're talking about the world to come, and I'm going to connect this with the topic of tonight, is that in the world to come, we'll realize that the physicality is actually over the spiritual. Like, we live in a world where we think the spiritual is like the better half. Like, we pray and we daven and we we believe in God, and we try to we learn Torah, we do all these spiritual things.
Yeah.
But in the Messianic,
yeah.
Right,
yeah.
But in the Messianic age, we'll come to the realization that the physical, in other words, Esau will overpower. Well, you know what I'm saying? The what was the word I'm trying to think? The metaphysical aspects of spirituality will be like overtaken by Esau. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know what I'm trying to say makes sense. Like, what I'm saying is, the physical will be the reason why we're here. Like, well, let me put it this way: the reason why we're here, reason why we're physical beings, that I can touch this table, I can talk to you, we can interact, is that life is what's the purpose. The purpose to live. The purpose is the physicality, to do mitzvot, go out there, give shadaka, give charity, put on tefillin, whatever. The physicality is what the real purpose is. We could have stayed in heaven, right? And we could chant hallelujah in heaven until the cows come home. But there was no real practical purpose in doing so. So God made a physical world. He put physical people to do physical things. And we kind of don't really think that way, right? In our Western, white, European Christian perspective, we kind of think, no, the real reason we're here is it's just a test, and we're going to die, and we're going to really understand spirituality in the world to come, and it's all about the spirituality, right? Like what James is doing, flopping on the floor like a fish, hallelujah, speaking in tongues, speaking in the pure language, please smack James in the head with the Bible, hallelujah, right? We think, right? You get what I'm saying, Bob? Like, we think that's like the purpose. Like, I'm here to be the spiritual dude. I'm just here to be this righteous dude. Call me Uncle Johnny, whatever. Call Uncle Bob, Uncle Jimmy, Uncle James. We're all here to do spiritual things. But the reality is, I'm kind of hamming it up now. I'm being over dramatic. But we think it's so spiritual, like we're here being, I'm so pious. But it's really the practicality of it all. Really what it is the physical, and people forget that. And so what the beauty is, the Messiah, is that he's gonna one day get us back in tune, in that realization that, the earth is higher than heaven, physical is higher than spiritual. Fasage, you get what I'm saying? Okay, anyway.
Now, man,
I digress.
I'm gonna connect another dot. Can I go with what you're saying about Babel?
Okay.
We're babbling.
Esau personified the nefesh, whereas Jacob personified the neshama.
What personified the body? Okay, you could say that. The animal soul. Yeah, it was an animal. He drank blood. That's That's what Esav. You know, it says in the Midrash that Esav used to drink blood. You ever know? You know where the origins of vampirism came from? Esav. He was the first vampire. Why do you think Christians drink blood? He's the children of the Christian. He's the father of the Christians, so they continue on the traditions of vampirism.
Well, they say that Lilith affects the first vampire. I just never thought it was. Oh. Ooh.
Well, you're reading too much of that Zohar, James. Lilith was a goyish. It says in the Zohar that Lilith was a goyim demon. It says in the Zohar that demons are goyim and that angels are Jews, and that Lilith was an evil goyim demon and she used to kill people.
Oy.
So that's
babies.
Used to kill babies. Yeah.
I'm going to connect it to something.
That's why
here.
Ashkenazim Jews, they let their 3-year-old boys grow their hair out before they cut it. That's where that tracks back to.
Huh.
Oh, anyway, go ahead, James. What are you going to say?
A connection. What's the last month before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? I don't remember the month. I don't remember the name of it. Right
Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
No, Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. What's the month before that?
No, this would be Tishrei.
Oh, it is Tishrei. Is it Tishrei?
Is that the final month or is it the first month?
Elul.
Elul is the last month, and Tishrei is the first month. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so it's Elul, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Elul is the month they say that the king is in the field. Remember?
That's correct. You can meet him.
That's when you're approaching the end of the year and you go back through the year and you find out. You go through all the wrongs you have done, and you come to God with them, and you speak to him. The idea of the king in the field is that it's just you and him. Nobody else can hear. You might have to work a little bit. You might have to walk a ways to get to him. What is Edom? He attacks men in the field, like Cain.
Right.
He attacks the desirous, coveting, that nasty ass part of excuse my French, nasty ass part of human nature. The klippa. You know, you're going to meet with the king in the field. God is in the field waiting for you. For an audience. He's there for an audience. He's in the field of all. What attacks you on the way? What is it that stops you on the way?
The animal soul, Esav.
It's Babel. It's when you can
he overpowers you and takes your virginity. He takes your innocence. He takes your pure speech. The pure innocent you. He overpowers you. He takes you. He ravishes you. He rapes you, and then you're married to him for life. You're married to the animal soul. You lose your innocence. You become klippa. You become unpurified. Tamei. Yeah, I like that.
What prevents you from getting to the field? Why, of all places, you know, the king is in the field on that final month, and not that we have to wait for that month for the klippa, but you know what I'm saying, and that, you know,
right?
He pounces on you, he gets you, and that's pretty much what Edom has done. At least the past 2,500 years since the inception of the Second Temple. It was Edom who said, "You can build this temple in honor, so long as you do so in honor of my God." I don't even remember the idol's name. I don't even remember it. But he said, "You do it in the name of my God." And yet we have no miracles at the Second Temple. And when it came down, it hurt. It hurt everybody. I mean, by the time the temple was built, 2/3 of Israel, was it? Well, it never even came back. And that's the, you know, we got to get back to the king. We got to get back to.
Yeah. Wow. That was powerful, James. We're storming it, man, today.
We are, aren't we?
It's beautiful. Baruch Hashem. It's how powerful that, you know what this is a testament to Hashem, that in this week's Torah portion that we can have such a profound understanding of the world to come. And you didn't even know that you was setting it up. I'm just gonna do some random topic, the world to come. Whatever is secondary. But it's actually the other way around. How the Torah was actually, if you just went with the Torah portion, the topic of world to come would have happened anyway, right? Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. I mean, hey, we're now going to go to the Haftarah, y'all. If you're in the Gutnick edition, it's 1384. And if you're following along for the first time, which is a quick little thing we do, in the Torah is broken up into study parts, parshas, portions. Parsha, portion, get it? Mother tongue. I keep thinking that mother tongue thing. I need to stop thinking that, but I still think it. We have a portion we read out of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, every week. And there is a section of the Hebrew Bible, which is what you might call the Old Testament, only Testament. And there's a section of that that directly pertains to the Parsha we just read, or that we've been studying, which is Toldos. And when we get into the Haftarahs here in the Gutnick edition, once again, 1384, yeah. We'll be in Malachi, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the final prophecy.
This is
Malachi?
the preacher's favorite thing in the Old Testament.
It says here on the website that it's 1 Samuel 20.
Ooh.
Oopsies. I apologize. What is it?
Toldos.
Todos.
Malachi.
Okay, Malachi. Okay. All right. I got the wrong link.
Yeah, Bob, you were saying...
That might be, the Samuel might be for the blessing of the new month, of the moon.
Oh, so we don't read the Todos. Okay. That's all right. We'll go with James. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Is there a better reading, Bob?
Well, once a month, the one right before the new moon, they do a special Haftarah that's associated with the new moon.
Yeah.
Well, let's go democracy. Who's up for Malachi? Who's up for Samuel?
Well, we should do the
Malachi.
It would make more sense, I think.
We should what?
Well, we're not blessing the new moon. We're not doing any sort of ritual. So why don't we just go with the Haftarah for the Parsha?
All right. Then the new moons is something else that I think that not Jewish people are supposed to eventually get a hold of. Shabbos and the new moon. There is something about the new moon we should be aware of. I'm getting there. We'll see how we do.
It marks the first day of the new month.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Getting in touch with the calendar. Boy, I need that. I need that. All right. All right. We'll move on. We're going to go Malachi chapter 1, and we're going to go through chapter 2, 7. 7th verse of chapter 2 is where we're in. I want to read this. Once again, for all you at home, this is the Gutnick edition Chumash. You will notice I probably say a little more that's in your Chumash, but they take the time to spell it out for you here. So wish me luck. Here we go. The prophecy, the word of God to Israel, transmitted by Malachi, is as follows. I loved you, said God. But if you say, in what way do you show your love for us personally and not merely due to the permit of the patriarchs and the matriarchs? I will reply to you, was Esau not Yaakov's brother, who shared the same ancestry as Yaakov? And God said, yet I loved Yaakov, and I hated Esau, despite his ancestors. I laid his mountains desolate and his inheritance a home desert. So clearly, when I loved you, it was not only in the merit of your ancestors. If Edom, Esau's descendants that destroyed the holy temple, say, we are now poor, but we will return and rebuild the desolate places, then the God of hosts says, they will build and I will destroy. The destruction will be so awesome that people will call it a wicked place, which clearly merited destruction by God. And they will be called a people of whom God is forever angry. When you return to your territory with redemption, your eyes will see the extent of Edom's destruction. And you will say and you will say about the territory of Israel, God is great, for he performs wonders. I love you for your own merits. You are not merely a son who naturally honors his father, or a servant who naturally honors his master. And if I am a father to you, then where is my proper honor? If I am a master, then where is my fear? Says the God of hosts to you, the priests who disgrace my name. How have we disgraced your name? The answer is, you offer on my altar repulsive bread. And if you still say, how have our sacrifices disgraced you? The answer will be, by saying that God's table is repulsive, since blood and fats are offered on it. Furthermore, when you offer a blind animal to be sacrificed, do you not see it as bad? When you offer a lame or sick animal, you do not see it as bad because the altar is disgusting in your eyes? Try offering such an animal now as a gift to your governor. Would he be pleased or receive you kindly? The God of hosts says, if you, the priests, now pray before God that he should be gracious to us, the Jewish people will return to him and listen. Let me try that again. If you, the priests, now pray before God that he should be gracious to us, the Jewish people, will he listen? This misfortune that will occur because of you. So how can you expect that he will receive you favorably? Says the God of hosts. If only there was someone among you to choose the doors of the temple, so that you do not kindle fire on my altar in vain, because I have no desire for you, your appearances in the temple, says the God of hosts, and I do not desire a gift offering from your hands. Ooh. Well, that'll stir some stuff up right there. I'm going to read that last part. And I do not desire a gift offering from your hands. For not my name is great among the nations, from the place where the sun rises to the place where it sets. In all places offerings are brought and burnt by the nations to their gods, but they know that the primary cause of all existence is my name. So their offerings are pure in their eyes. For my name is great among the nations, says the God of hosts. But you are profaning it when you say the table of God is despicable, and by saying that its food is repulsive. When you bring a lean, skinny animal, you say, this is so burdensome, pretending that you are tired from carrying such a heavy animal, when really it could be blown over in a breath, says the God of hosts. Sorry. Anybody who thinks that God has no sense of humor. It could have been blown over with a breath, says God of hosts. You also bring stolen animals, lame and sick ones, and you bring them as if as gift offerings. Would I accept this from your hands, says God? Cursed is the one who deceives me, claiming that he only has funds for a poor offering. He has his flock better. No, he has in his flock better male animals, and yet he vows and then sacrifices abandoned animals to God. For I am a great king, says the God of hosts, and my name is feared among the nations. And now the commandments not to accept the poor sacrifices given to you, the priests. If you do not listen, and if you do not take it to heart to honor my name, says the God of hosts, then will I release a curse upon you, and I will make your erstwhile blessings into curses. Indeed, you are already suffering from being cursed by me. For you do not take it to heart to be careful about my honor. Look, because of you, I will suppress the seeds that they will not grow. I will blow dung in your faces, like the dung of your festival sacrifices with which you disgraced me. Your sin will cause you to be disgraced like this. And last bit. You should know that I sent you this commandment of offering my sacrifices in order for you to be rewarded from my covenant with Aaron, head of the tribe of Levi, says the God of hosts. My covenant was with him, and it brought him life and peace. I gave these mitzvos to him because of the fear in his heart before me. He was in awe of my name. The Torah of truth was being taught by his mouth, and no wrong was found on his lips. For the sake of my mitzvot, he walked with me, guided others in peace and in righteousness. Through his rebukes, he turned away people away from their pains to sin. And this applies to every priest, for the lips of a priest are fit to guard knowledge. And it is fitting that the people should seek the Torah from his mouth, that he should teach them, for a priest is an emissary of God, emissary of the God of hosts. And that's our Haftarah. I apologize for cracking up, but
no, I got those parts too. I was like, yeah.
I got another one, but I'm gonna wait till after the show.
I could sneeze and knock that animal over. Are you kidding me?
Oh man.
See, when I was
which version were you reading from?
The Gutnick.
Kutnik edition, Pumish.
Okay, so that had all the Rashi stuff mixed. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
One thing about the Gutnick is it inserts Mishnah Torah with the written word, if that makes any sense. So when you're reading the Gutnick edition, you will see parentheses. You see a sentence, and then sometimes with that sentence you see parentheses. The parentheses are words that shouldn't be there in the written text, but they're added to help you understand what the hell you're reading.
I think that's from Rashi, yeah.
Rashi, yeah. Oh, yeah, it could be Rashi. It could be just Rashi.
I was in a group of people back when I was a seeker. I was kind of stuck with them, and these are good folks doing the best they could, okay? But the big theme of this evangelical dude, and I knew better, and I bit my lip, and I didn't say anything for the sake of when these people gathered around in a circle and held hands and prayed. They thought they were doing the right thing. I didn't want to challenge the guy, but his big thing was you take all that negative stuff of yourself, all the bad stuff, the shame, the disgrace, the that transgenerational junk that's fed upon you, and you give it to God. His big, it was a Christian circle I was stuck with at the time, so that tells you anything. You have to give it to God. All that bad stuff, give it to God, and He'll take care of it, and you can go on your way in the world. And that really bugged me for years and years to come. And I think reading this Haftarah right now, you want to present the best for your maker. And that sets an example that you only want the best for yourself. You want the best for the world. You want the best for your family. And yet here's a time when, offering blind, you would actually offer a blind. The animal's supposed to know what's going to happen when it's being offered, It has to be conscious of what's happening. It knows it's about to be elevated. And yet you offer a blind animal. Blind, there we go, right there with the Parsha. That's why it's a Haftarah. It goes right with the Torah. Who was blind in this week's Torah portion?
Yeah.
Isaac.
This is one of the Midrash. Have you bought Midrash says yet, James? Not
yet.
It says that one of the explanations of why he was blind, it says that Esav would, he was dressed like a proper Yid. He has his black slacks on, his white shirt, proper Yid, right? But then he would just, he would wander off, and it says that his wives were idolaters, and that's what it says. And he would hide in his cave. He would go with his wives to this cave, and he would offer incest to other gods, quote-unquote other gods. And then he would have this stench on him, this foul stench of idol worship. And it somehow burnt Isaac, his father's eyes. That it, like, somehow destroyed his eyesight. But there's another midrash. It kind of works together. I think this is, if you put the two together, it makes sense. Another one is just simply says, no, Rashi says, this is not a midrash, it's Rashi. Rashi simply states, he was blind to Esau's idolatry. That's his explanation. It wasn't that he was physically blind. Or maybe that's what I don't know. Maybe that's what he's trying to get at. I don't know. Just, he was blind to Esau's idolatry. So if you put the two together, I think it makes perfect sense.
I forgot Esau was a closet idolater. I forgot about that. Yeah, you mentioned that last year.
Well, that's why Abraham died 5 years early, so he wouldn't have to see sins and be remorseful by him. They say that it would be too much for him to bear. So God took him 5 years early.
Yeah.
So they say that was when it mentions the red lentils was when Esau came back from killing Nimrod, and yeah, that was the day that Esau kind of went over the edge, and yeah, that was also the day that Abraham died. So that, yeah, it's all connected there.
Yeah. Asaph was a powerful dude. He was a powerful warlord. You know, we talk about this every week. I mean, they were all powerful men. I mean, a lot of warring with each other, warring tribes. I mean, that's what the Gemara says. I don't know. You know, whatever. It is what it is. James is BRB again. I don't know if he's BRB or AFK. So, someone told me that BRB doesn't stand for Be Right Back. It actually stands for bathroom break. Someone says it's bathroom break.
Yeah. I like BRB.
Yeah, I prefer Be Right Back myself.
Because there's no button to say I gotta throw the cat outside to get legs because it's in heat. Making me nuts.
It doesn't make sense that it's bathroom break because only New Yorkers.
No, but
bathroom.
Okay, right now while he's not here, he turned around and said if you could just like, what is it? Meld with a cat and let him know it's okay. It's like, dude, you live with a woman once a month. You haven't figured this out yet that can't be done. Okay, next question.
Oh, it's a female cat. I was thinking it was a male cat.
Male cats don't go into heat.
Male cats don't go in the heat? Oh, okay.
This is a female cat that's all.
How do you? I don't want to talk about cats going into heat. How do you do that thing where you put letters on your face?
He has Manicam.
I have Manicam.
What? You got fancy camera. Okay, never mind.
Like mini.
It's an application.
21st century. I can't handle it. Okay.
It takes a bit. It took me a while to get it to where I can work on this thing too. I've had it for a year. Yeah, you can. It gives you the option of having 6 basically cameras, so I can switch from me, and then I can switch back, and it's got all kinds of different wipes and whatnot.
He's a media production.
It's a neat place. And on this note, I'll show you the new thing because I've been wanting to have an ending a credit. And it's nice to, everybody's got an avatar. They've got a screen. They've got credits. They've got all these great things. I figured I'd try it out too. So we'll do that here in a bit. But before I do that, I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. Who's been here? We're going to end the live portion tonight.
Well, let me just read the thing I like to do. I do the weekly reading of the email that I get.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Go for it, please.
All right, I get an email once a week from Chabad.Roslyn.com. I mean, everyone knows where I go, so it doesn't really matter. It's a temple that I go to. They send out an email. Wisdom from the Rebbe. So this one's Rebbe oriented. So I don't know. It might perturb some people.
Hey, here's to the Rebbe.
A distraught Jew visited the Lubavitcher Rebbe and complained that his children were assimilating. Quote, "What have I done wrong? Why have they strayed from the path that I taught them?" Unquote. He sighed and repeated an old Yiddish saying. I don't even know if I can say this. Yiddish. Ziz Shiva Tush Zayin Ayid. Which translates to how difficult it is to be a Jew. Do you often express yourself in this way, said the Rebbe? In stressful times, I do. The Rebbe gently told him, then that is a message your children hear, that they are impersonating your Judaism that they have. With a twinkle in his eye, the Rebbe continued, there's another Yiddish saying, it's great to be a Jew. Switch your refrain and you will notice a difference in your children's appreciation for their heritage. This week, a close to 4,000 Chabad rabbis from every corner of the planet will gather in New York for a yearly international conference of Chabad emissaries. In 1994, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the leader of Chabad Lubavitch movement, passed away, may his memory be a blessing, all pundits forecast the gradual demise of the Lubavitch movement. They claimed that Chabad was synonymous with the Rebbe and that it would be impossible for the movement to continue without him. To their surprise, the very opposite has happened. Chabad has grown in unappreciated fashion. Thousands of young men and women have signed up to serve on behalf of Chabad in some of the most remote Jewish communities around the world. Through them, the Rebbe's sphere of influence has spread even farther, touching even more people. This refusal to give in to the pessimists and doomsayers of the world is a direct result of extraordinary optimism in that the Lubavitcher Rebbe communicated to his disciples through his talks and writings through his lifetime. This positive outlook and upbeat philosophy has kept Chabad thriving against all odds, and something we can all apply to our lives, thereby making the world a better and happier place. In this week's Torah portion, Todos, Generations, describes the life of our patriarch Yitzhak, Isaac. Yitzhak was the only one of the four patriarchs who lived his entire life in the land of Israel. Avraham was born outside of Israel and also left Israel to go to Egypt, Mitzrayim, when there was a famine. Jacob as well left Israel when he left to work for Lavan, the slave owner. The Talmud teaches us that in the Messianic era, Yitzhak will be referred to as our father, implying he has a special connection to the Messianic age. Yitzhak spread godliness by staying in the same place, Israel. When others flocked to him because they were attracted to his holiness, Avraham spread his belief in God by going to place, including Egypt. We need to follow both of these approaches by refraining our spiritual selves, but yet not neglecting to spread our holiness throughout the entire world. For the most part, the Jewish people have followed Avraham's example, wandering from country to country, spreading Yiddishkeit, spreading holiness, spreading the name of God, monotheism, wherever they went. After the Mashiach comes, we will follow in Yitzhak's footsteps, as godliness and the light will emanate from the third holy temple. At that time, as it happened in the days of Yitzhak, all nations will flock to Jerusalem, quote, and all the nations shall flow into it. For the Torah shall go forth from Zion, unquote. Commentary from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, 1991. Thank you.
Chachma Dad. Here's to Kabad. And here's to I'm still following your particular schedule for readings all the time. Perfect, John. Thank you. All right. We're going to end the live portion now on a perfect, beautiful note. Thank you all for tuning in on behalf of John, Yochanan, Chris, Madalena. It's so good to have you here. And anytime, please come back. Rosalie and the immortal, great Heathen Army, and myself, for everybody here. Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Shabbat Shalom.
Be well. Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, wow. They just updated the pictures to the mikveh that they're building, the Chabad Roslin mikveh.
Hang on, it's not.
I think
hold on.
I think we're still live.
We're live, but I'm supposed to end this with something really cool, and I didn't hit the right button. So, on behalf of Bob, Yochanan, Chris, Madalena, Rosalie, and the great, the immortal great Heathen Army, Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Shabbat Shalom.
There we go. Now we got it. Here we go.
I kind of want to actually show you
Okay,
this.
live.
Never mind.
We're still
okay.
live?
Hey, I'm not done with it.
Can we please
do special? Oh, there we go. I worked on this for a whole 15 minutes last night.